Hi, everyone. Welcome to a webinar titled Safeguarding More Children Faster with On-Scene Triage Using Artificial Intelligence. My name is Debbie Garner, and just by way of a little bit of introduction, I retired from law enforcement approximately 2.5 years ago, and I had a very fun and interesting career with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I worked for the GBI for 30 years. And while I had a variety of assignments during that time, the last 8 years of my career was as the special agent in charge of GBI's Child Exploitation and Computer Crimes Unit. And whoever holds that position in the GBI is also the ICAC commander for the state of Georgia, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force for the state of Georgia. And in retirement, I became very passionate about child exploitation investigations while working with the GBI and, as the ICAC commander. But in retirement, I've been working with a variety of technology companies trying to help develop and perfect technology that will assist law enforcement with child exploitation investigations. Having worked in the ICAC space for a number of years, both in the public and the private sector, I've been immensely interested in companies developing tools that will find first generation CSAM or CSAM that's not in a common hash list. And I've spoken with many companies about developing solutions that will find novel CSAM as technology advances, the possibilities advance. So I've been searching for this tool for quite some time, and I've known the developers of CaseScan for a couple of years. And as they have advanced CaseScan, I've worked with them to help perfect the tool, talk with law enforcement, provide feedback, and help them get the word out about CaseScan, and to hopefully have more people try the tool to make their job easier and to help you with your mission. So, Yaron, will you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. My name is Yaron Naor. I'm talking to you now from Boston. I've been in enterprise software my entire career, quite a few AI companies. I founded and sold 2 startups of my own, myself. I joined NetSpark about 3 years ago, and I have to tell you that this is the first time, or almost the first time, that I became so passionate about the technology. I see the value that it brings almost immediately to protect our kids. And so for me, this is really, it's an amazing journey. And I'm happy to tell you more about CaseScan as we move forward.
Thanks, Yaron. So, get this. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence as well as how that's advancing child exploitation investigations. And then we're going to also be talking about how using tools like that can help you triage and find victims faster. But I want to first talk about challenges, sort of define what it is that we're talking about. And I know that you know your own challenges, but I'd like to sort of lay these out there so that we can then talk about the solutions that are out there to these challenges. So I know from experience that some of the challenges you're dealing with is an overwhelming caseload. We all know cyber tips are increasing exponentially. How do you prioritize that overwhelming caseload? The overwhelming caseload creates a digital forensic backlog. And how do you determine if an offender is a hands-on offender? How do you identify and locate and safeguard victims? I know that many of you have a lack of resources for tools and software, hardware, and training, including personnel. And in ICAC world, for those of us who are investigating child exploitation cases, maintaining healthy mental wellness practices is critically important as well. So what I'd like to do is sort of get into a discussion of these challenges just a little bit more, and more importantly, solutions. So again, I don't have to tell you, about the increase in cyber tips, but, with the numerous mechanisms to create, store, and distribute CSAM, as technology increases, so do cyber tips. You can see on the screen that in 2019, there were around 17 million reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children related to child exploitation cases. And all the way up to last year in 2023, there were over 36 million reports of child exploitation, most of which were reports of CSAM possession, distribution, or manufacture. So if you're curious about more data or need more data for research you're doing, or you're trying to pull together statistics to justify new resource requests, NCMEC's data is provided very comprehensively on their website at missingkids.org. And if you look on their website for cyber tip line data, you can find a lot of this data, including your own state's number of cyber tips. So, that's just one of the resources you can use as you try to justify additional resources. So, when we talk about artificial intelligence and the challenges it presents in our world, generative AI CSAM is definitely one of them. With this overwhelming increase, generative AI CSAM is not helping. You can see some of these articles that are instances of people being prosecuted for Gen AI CSAM possession, creation, distribution. And what this is going to cause, is, a higher volume of potentially illicit content, and distinguishing between genuine and manipulated imagery is only going to increase the complexity of investigations. Gen AI CSAM can tend to be more graphic, which increases the trauma and psychological impact, as investigators may encounter increasingly explicit and distressing content. Creating generative AI CSAM also means that we are going to have to adapt our detection methods. Traditional approaches such as hash lists and manual image analysis may not be sufficient to detect newly generated CSAM. And the collaborative effort between law enforcement and technology companies and policymakers is going to be critically important as we move forward dealing with this. So in 2023, NCMEC's cyber tip line received 4,700 reports related to child sexual abuse material or sexually exploitive content that involved generative AI technology. So one of the most interesting things about that stat, though, is that more than 70% of Gen AI CSAM reports submitted to the cyber tip line are from traditional online platforms, the platforms that are always submitting to NCMEC anyway. So Meta, Snap, Discord, all of those, that is where this Gen AI CSAM is coming from. And the statistics indicate that most generative AI platforms where the content is being created are not reporting to the cyber tip line. And I found that super interesting. So when you do go out and execute a search warrant and either preview devices on scene or bring them back to the lab, or if you receive a search warrant return, how are you finding CSAM currently? We've talked about this overwhelming increase, including Gen AI. How are you finding the images on the devices and inside the search warrant returns? Most of the time, we're going to do it manually or via hash matching. Now, manually viewing extracted images one by one is very slow and inefficient, and there's a pretty good amount of psychological impact scrolling through CSAM sitting at your desk daily. Using hash matching certainly helps that process, but hash matching is limited to known CSAM, and those images are sensitive to modifications. Hash matching is not able, so if you're using, say, Project Vic or a known hash list that is embedded in one of your digital forensics tools, many of those are going to be unable to identify first generation CSAM. So, but that's how we're doing it today for the most part. So we'll talk about artificial intelligence for good. Artificial intelligence is now being used. There are organizations that are creating artificial intelligence tools to find first generation CSAM, and they're doing it in a variety of ways. So artificial intelligence is being used to scan operating systems and digital devices. It's being used for image and video analysis, for text analysis, even content moderation. So again, the Metas, the Snaps, the Discords, the X, Twitter, all of those platforms are also using artificial intelligence to moderate content and to find CSAM on their platforms. Artificial intelligence is also being used to identify victims using facial recognition. So there's all these, we talk about the bad, the detrimental, the cons to artificial intelligence when it comes to child exploitation, but it can also be used for good. So when I talk about the types of organizations that are creating artificial intelligence tools to find CSAM, who's doing that and how are they doing that? So there are what I would call tech giants. Large internet platforms have access to actual CSAM as people load and post images and videos to their platforms, and they have used that material to train artificial intelligence tools to find more of that platform, or to find more of that CSAM or that content on their platform. This technology has not made its way to law enforcement, though. So there are also nonprofit organizations that are dedicated to child protection that have access to actual CSAM, and they're using that content to create artificial intelligence tools to find CSAM. And these organizations often work in collaboration with law enforcement agencies, tech companies, and other stakeholders to develop that. But again, that has not necessarily always made its way effectively to law enforcement. I know of one law enforcement officer that has created he had the expertise and the knowledge to build and train an artificial intelligence tool. So he had access to CSAM images. He used that. He had the knowledge to build an artificial intelligence tool. And that project is promising, but again, we don't have access to that yet. Now, there are what I would call tech innovators and digital forensics companies, emerging startups and technology companies that are building artificial intelligence tools to find first generation CSAM, but they are combining images of nudity, sex, and children in order to try and find CSAM. And those don't necessarily work as well as training a tool with actual CSAM. So if you want to train an artificial intelligence tool to find a car, you train it on actual images of cars, not images of the wheel and of the door and of the antenna. So you have to train it with images of cars, so not pieces of that. So there are companies who have received special permission. They are companies outside of the United States that have received special permission to use known CSAM to train an artificial intelligence tool to find new CSAM that is not in a known hash set. And these companies have worked with international law enforcement agencies that have access to CSAM to train their tools and their data sets. So one of those companies is NetSpark. NetSpark has actually been working in the artificial intelligence space for years. They do other things, but as they were creating these other safety solutions using artificial intelligence, they started to believe that they could develop a tool to find first generation CSAM for law enforcement. So Yaron, I'm going to let you talk just really quickly about NetSpark as a company and sort of what they are doing.
Sure. If you go to this slide, like Debbie said, NetSpark began forming as a company about more than 15 years ago. It's a profitable and growing company out of Israel. They started initially by developing a web filtering solution for religious people. So basically allowing religious people to go into the internet and surf freely without being exposed to pornographic sites or nudity or things like that. Today, there are about 2 million daily users that are using this technology. Later on, they expanded their offering using the same type of technology or similar in schools. So today, all the schools in Israel, about more than 4,500 schools, are using the NetSpark technology, again, to allow the kids in school to benefit from learning using the internet, but not allowing them to go to pornographic sites or the likes. And about 3 years ago, the company took this challenge of including CSAM as another category and offer CaseScan to law enforcement.
Now they're using it for user-generated content. So some internet platforms are using your technology as well, correct?
Sorry, Debbie, you got disconnected for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. So there are internet platforms that are using your technology as well for user-generated content.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I want to, one of the most exciting things to me when I was introduced to CaseScan was the fact that it scans digital devices and search warrant returns, and it identifies all CSAM generations with artificial intelligence. And what we mean by that is first generation CSAM, novel CSAM. It's CSAM that's never been hashed before. It's not in any common hash list. Basically new CSAM, newly produced CSAM. So I was so excited about that, because what that means is you go out on a search warrant and you preview digital devices and you use CaseScan to do that, to search that device, and you can find new CSAM. That means that it's highly likely there is a victim close by that you can safeguard more quickly. So I thought that was the most interesting thing about CaseScan. When I started talking with users, though, the first thing that the users that I've spoken with who have tried CaseScan and who are customers, they actually are most excited about how fast CaseScan scans devices. So literally initial results within a few minutes. Again, CaseScan was trained on actual CSAM, and there are things embedded in the tool that mitigate the adverse effect on investigators being exposed to CSAM. There's blurring technology, there's pointer technology. And again, CaseScan was built with the help of law enforcement as well as technology experts. So, if there was a slide earlier about how we find, CSAM now. So it's either manually or hashless. So if we talk about using CaseScan as a artificial intelligence CSAM identifier, we're going to talk about it two ways: on scene and in the lab. So it really is a triage tool. So you connect a cell phone or a computer to CaseScan and you rule in or out devices in minutes. We've all been on search warrants that have 40 devices, and you have to determine which ones you want to take. Do you want to take all of the ones in the drawer? Maybe you do. Maybe they have, all the old phones. Maybe you do. Do you want to take grandma's phone? Do you want to take the child's Chromebook from school? You need to rule all of those out, and CaseScan will quickly do that. Again, it finds CSAM, including first generation CSAM, which means it will help you identify and safeguard victims faster. And I know for us, we always wanted to make same day arrests. If you can go on a search warrant, triage all the devices on scene quickly, possibly find victims and safeguard them, and make a same day arrest, that is amazing. CaseScan can also be used in the lab, and it helps save time and reduce workload. If you work for an agency that does not triage on scene and basically takes it back to the lab and processes all your devices there, it will still save you time and reduce your workload because it is so fast. It'll help you prioritize devices for extraction and processing. And again, it will still find first generation CSAM for victim identification. So, I sort of just went over it, but some of the benefits of triaging on scene: rule devices in or out, reduction of in-lab backlogs. Whether you're the only digital forensic examiner or you have several examiners in the office, it still will help you reduce your in-lab backlogs. First generation CSAM, again, what I thought was the most interesting and the coolest thing about CaseScan was it finding CSAM that's not in a hash list, a hash list. Immediate identification of key evidence, efficient use of resources, enhanced investigative decision making, and again, minimizing the impact on a household. If you are going out on a search warrant, there are certain devices you don't want to take. You don't want to impact that family any more than you have to. Search warrant returns. So CaseScan will also help you scan search warrant returns. Finding and safeguarding victims faster again. Search warrant returns, we all know that they can come back and they can be very, very voluminous. So if you run your search warrant return through CaseScan, it does the same thing as triaging a device on scene. It will find CSAM, all generations of CSAM, in your search warrant return, which I know saves people a lot of time. Going through search warrant returns is very time consuming. All right, I'm going to let Yaron. This is sort of where we're going to enter into a demo of the tool so you can see what the user interface looks like, what it really can do. So I'm going to turn it over to Yaron.
Okay. All right, guys. So just to reiterate a few things that Debbie mentioned, CaseScan is an edge device. So nothing on the internet, nothing on the cloud. In fact, you don't even need the internet to use CaseScan. The only time that you will need to use internet is first time to download the software to your computer, either to the laptop that you take with you when you execute a warrant or a knock and talk, or to the forensic machine in the lab. And the other time that you'll need to use CaseScan, and I'll show it to you at the end of my session, is to basically send us system logs if there is a problem, if there is a new file format that you want us to support, things of that nature. You can share with us system logs, telemetry basically, and that's how we can understand how to help you. Other than that, it's completely safe, secured, and the only people who have access to CaseScan are the people who are authorized with username and password. So as you can see here, once you download CaseScan, it's a very easy and simple forward. You basically have one user profile. That's the admin user profile, and that's the only profile that you'll ever need. The admin profile can create a new case, delete a case, modify a case, and also assign other users to view a case. Once you do that and you basically create the admin profile, you can, as you can see here, you can create a new case by clicking that button on the top right. Before that, you can also view older cases that you already created and are work in process. You can see who was, what's the case number, who is assigned to them, is it a video, is it an image, how much of it is there, and so on and so forth. Once you're ready to create a case, you basically click that button, and then you will get basically another screen here, as you can see here with the red square is with three options. As Debbie mentioned, the images option at the bottom, that's basically the lab triage use case. That's the ability to point CaseScan, as I'll show you in just a second, to an EO1, a UFDR, a zip file, any of the above if you're in the lab, any extraction that you have in order for CaseScan to analyze the data, and again, give you initial results within a few minutes, even if the entire analysis can take several hours. The middle option is still in beta. You should ignore it for the time being. And the mobile option in the top, that's the on-scene triage use case, where you can actually connect CaseScan directly with a cable to an iPhone or an Android phone. In case of an iOS, basically CaseScan will do something similar like iTunes backup. So it will look at all the data on the device, including private and public folders. And again, literally within a couple of minutes, it will start to give you initial results, whether there is any CSAM there or not. And the objective, like Debbie mentioned, is to, first of all, spend much less time at the home when you execute the warrant. And secondly, reduce the backlog. So instead of bringing back with you 40 devices, maybe you only bring back 3 devices that you determine that have CSAM on them. Once you're ready to create a case, you click that button, and basically you start to fill up the information. The case name, you select the input, basically point CaseScan to the folder that you wanted to analyze, the evidence name. You can also select where you want the output to be. And then there are 2 options here with regard to additional functionality. If you check the box of the enhanced accuracy mode, there will be additional AI algorithms that will be activated, primarily to reduce the number of false positives. And I see somebody here asking about how accurate CaseScan is. CaseScan is very accurate, but it's not perfect. There will be false positives. In fact, there are some false positives by design, because we'd rather have a false positive than a false negative. And the likelihood for a false negative, which means that we will miss CSAM image or video, is very small, 1 to several billions. But the way we train the neural network is that we tell it, if you're not 100% sure whether it's CSAM or not, put it as a possible CSAM or likely CSAM. I'll show you this to you in a second. So there will be some false positives, but the big thing is that instead of looking at maybe 100,000 images or 1 million images, and we have many investigators that had to deal with it, you will only need to deal with a subset of that, a very small subset of that, maybe 100 images, maybe 1,000, no more. So many investigators that are using CaseScan are telling us that a case that took them 6 or 7 weeks to process without CaseScan is done with CaseScan in only a few hours. The additional option that you see here is the ability to also present and deal with analyze deleted files. That's a process that takes some time. We'll need to reconstruct the files, sometimes from different places. But if you think that there are files that were deleted and you want CaseScan to analyze them, just check that box. And once you have done all that and you click on create a case, basically CaseScan begins to work for you. Right from the get-go, within, again, a few minutes, you will see on the top left how many files CaseScan identified altogether, how many of them are images and how many of them are videos, and within them, how many are possible CSAM, likely CSAM, or very likely CSAM. And that's the way that CaseScan will categorize the CSAM images and videos. In addition, it will also, as I'll show you in a second, we also categorize nudity and underwears, and then there is another category for everything that is none of the above. Now, in phase 1, CaseScan will always look at common media file extensions, AVI, JPEG, MP4, things of that nature. It will create a database of files and then shoot it to the AI for scanning, as you can see here. In phase 2, it will look at uncommon media file extensions or file extensions that were manipulated, the same thing. In phase 3, it will start to look at compressed files, RAR, zip files, and the likes. In phase 4, it will begin to collect EXIF data, and I'll show you an example of how it looks like. It's pretty detailed. The type of device that took the image, when it was taken, what's the GPS location, what's the path, things of that nature. In phase 5, if you check the box on the previous screen, it will show you, it will recover deleted files. And in phase 6, it will also eliminate duplications, which is a big thing. Again, in order to save you time, we understand from many investigators that this can be a problem, could be hundreds, if not more, of duplicates. CaseScan will show you the first one, which is usually the original, and then give you a link to all the others. But again, while this is happening, as soon as you see this preview results button here at the bottom of the screen, you can click it and you can start to see initial results while CaseScan continues to work in the background. So there is absolutely no need to wait until all the analysis is done. And in fact, this is one very common workflow. Here on this screen, you can see basically the initial results. So like Debbie mentioned, the other objective of CaseScan, in addition to save you time in basically categorizing the images and the videos, is to protect the mental health of the investigators as best we can. The default setup is blur. So again, we put you in control. You can decide what you want to see or what you want others to see. You can change the blur level. You can also change, and if you hover with the pointer over the image, you can see what's underneath, and you can also change the pointer size, make it bigger or smaller. Basically, you're in control. You can decide what you want to see, how much you want to see, and so forth. And everything that you decide can also be then translated to the report. Once you click on an image, you see the image. In this case, it's a video. You see all the EXIF data that I mentioned, pretty detailed. Here you also have an ability to define each image or video with multiple labels. You can say, okay, this is Rani or Danielle, give it a name. Or you can say this is category 1, category 2, any way you want to describe the image or the video. And you can also add your own comments. And many people all over, I see people here from Kentucky. The entire state police in Kentucky is using CaseScan already second year. I see people here from Texas. We have several customers from Texas, including today from Harris County. So they are telling us that the ability to add comments is very, very useful for them. Now let me show you a few classifiers here on the left-hand side that basically help you to work a case. Like I said, the most important feature of CaseScan and the big differentiator is the AI CSAM classifier. And here, like I said, CaseScan will tell you this is very likely CSAM, or possible CSAM. And you can check either box in order to see what CaseScan found. You can check only just one box at a time, you can check any 2 boxes, or you can check them all. If you really want just to find a few CSAM images in a device, not necessarily all the CSAM images, just check the very likely CSAM. 95% from the CSAM images will be there. 3% will be in the very likely CSAM, and 2% will be in the possible CSAM. All right. On the other hand, if you want to find all the CSAM images, you probably want to check all boxes. And now we do get reports from the field, time and time again, that CaseScan identifies CSAM images that are missed in a manual review or by using other tools. The other tools, if you need to match it with a hash, if there is no hash or the hash was manipulated, it's not going to find it. Because CaseScan is pure AI, and it doesn't rely on the hash, it doesn't rely on photo DNA, it doesn't care about skin tone and things like this, it actually identifies CSAM that is usually or some occasionally missed. Some examples, we had an investigator in Florida that in Florida they need to find at least 10 CSAM images in order to charge somebody with a 2nd degree, otherwise it's going to be a 3rd degree. The investigator that used CaseScan found 8 images without CaseScan. And then there were about 130,000 images in that data set. And then he had applied the same data set with CaseScan, and CaseScan found those 8 and 4 more. So one of them was just very dark. It was very easy to miss. The software picked it up. Another one was many small thumbnails. He missed it. The software picked it up. Third one was just upside down. And the fourth one, there was a video running, a laptop running a video in the background. It was very small, very easy to miss. But there in that video on that laptop was the perpetrator with a victim. And the software picked it up. And we get many reports like that. So CaseScan will identify CSAM images better than we can do manually, and definitely faster. Other than CSAM, as I said, there are other 2 categories, nudity and underwears. We know they are important for you occasionally. And then there is another category which is unclassified. So basically everything that is none of the above will be there. I recently just installed CaseScan on my own computer, and I tried my own cell phone, and 95% from my images, as you can imagine, were in the unclassified category. In addition to the AI capabilities, we added another classifier. It's a first-gen classifier. This is not AI. This is using EXIF data parameters to try to tell you whether it's a first-gen or not. because as Debbie mentioned, if there is a proximity to a victim, we want you to know about it. So again, here there are about 8 parameters that we are looking at to try to see if this is first gen or not. If we see most of them or all of them, it's going to be very likely. If we see only 1 or 2, it's going to be, small probability. But again, it's another classifier that you can check either one box or all boxes to see whether you have first gen.
Can I just mention one example of that? So if this first gen classifier, if the image was produced with that phone, then it will show up in this as possible first gen, right?
Exactly.
So that's just one example of how it's doing that. Okay.
Absolutely. In addition to that, again, talking about saving you time, in CaseScan, we developed very efficient way to deal with videos. So if there is a video on the device or on the extraction, you can run the video from CaseScan. And if for whatever reason you cannot use the media player that CaseScan would like to use, you can refer to your own media player on your computer and run the video from there. But really, there is no need to, because CaseScan will extract the unique frames that are relevant for the investigation. And then you can see here there is 5 frames that were extracted. Here there were 9 frames. It's much easier and faster to just go over 5 frames or 9 frames rather than see a 10, or 15 minutes video, which most likely the CSAM will be maybe somewhere in the middle or towards the end. There are other capabilities and other classifiers. This is the labels. Like I said, you define a label when you look at the image first time. Once you define it, it's here, and then you can assign it to any other image or video that you want. We know that sometimes many CSAM images will be very closely related to each other. You don't need to label each of them separately. You can just create one label and then get them all under that label. And there are other filters here that can allow you to see, for example, which CSAM images were detected on a specific day or from a specific GPS location or things of that nature. Once you're ready and you categorized all the images and the videos, you labeled them, you added your own comments, and you're ready to submit a report, all you need to do is click the export button here at the top right. Basically, CaseScan will give you 2 options. One is to create a CSV file that can then basically allow you to export the MD5 hashes that we also create. And another is to print a PDF report. Before you print the report, you can still decide whether you want to include the images or videos, whether you want to blur them or not, to include the other statistics, and even if you want to create your own media folder. Once you make all these decisions, you click create, and basically CaseScan will create a PDF report for you. As you can see here on the top left, you will have all the information that you completed or filled up in the beginning, the evidence name, things of that nature. Down below, it will show you all the classifiers that were used for this specific report, the AI system classifier, the first-gen classifier, etc. Below that, it will give you very basic statistics about how many images detected with CSAM and how many videos. Further below, it will show you the actual EXIF data, the MD5 hash, which again is unique for each image or video, and the media itself, the way you decided to describe it, blur or unblur. The last thing I want to show you is how to use the CaseScan in the field. Again, it's the same engine. The only difference is that when you use it in the lab, you point it to a folder that you wanted to analyze. When you are in the field, you connect device, an iPhone or an Android phone, directly to CaseScan, as you can see here with the cable. And then there's basically a wizard that will just walk you through. Basically, CaseScan will identify the device. It will back up the data. It will then analyze it, and it will then show you results. And I can show you here how it is done. You'll need to trust the phone. That's going to be a pop-up on your screen. CaseScan will not be able to crack the password of the phone, so you will need to have the password. Otherwise, you probably need to use Graykey or other tools to crack the password. Assuming you have the password, CaseScan will just then give you all the information and the data specifically about the device. and then it will just use the same engine. It will back up the data. It will shoot it to the AI. It will look then at compressed files, collect the EXIF data, eliminate duplications, and all that good stuff. And finally, I think this is my last slide. Basically, you can see here, once you install CaseScan on your computer, you will have this arrow here. And if you click the arrow on your taskbar below, you will see the CaseScan logo. If you right-click on the CaseScan logo, you will have all these options. So you can also, quit or uninstall the program, and you can also create and send us system logs. Again, there is no images or video that are being sent. It's pure telemetry for us to better understand what's going on, if there is a problem, or like I said, if there is a new file format that you want us to support, things of that nature. That's about it. Easy to use, intuitive. Usually when I give this training to people to use it, that's the only training that they ever get or ever need. Of course, we are offering more robust training if necessary, but really this tool is designed to be very focused on CSAM images and videos and other categories, and then trying to allow you to do what takes you weeks in hours. Back to you.
So, let's talk. That was a very great explanation of the capabilities, but let's talk about sort of where CaseScan is going, what you guys have planned for the future. So when I first made this slide, on-scene triage capabilities were just coming out. So that is actually done. I know very soon on the horizon, CaseScan will be Project Vic compliant, so that when CaseScan finds all finds all generations of CSAM on the device, you can then run it against a known hash list and separate the current known CSAM and into another bucket. And I know that there is the first gen options within CaseScan now, but this will just give another way to separate known CSAM from possible novel or first generation CSAM. So the sort of what I call buckets for known CSAM and first generation CSAM. I know CaseScan is talking about facial recognition capabilities, which is huge in CSAM world. So if you have a known victim and you want to be able to see if that victim is actually on in the CSAM that was detected, that will be a capability. And then, all tools are always making more robust reports. So just, always improving. So just sort of as a summary, we talked about a lot of the challenges that, that ICAC investigators, that child exploitation investigators have. And CaseScan aids in solving a lot of these challenges. So the overwhelming caseload and digital forensics backlog, obviously they can't stop the deluge of cyber tips, but CaseScan scans devices and search warrant returns quickly. So it will help with the overwhelming caseload. Determining if an offender is a hands-on offender, CaseScan finds first generation and novel CSAM. Again, similarly, identifying, locating, and safeguarding victims. There's that first gen and novel CSAM capability inside CaseScan. Lack of resources for tools, software, hardware, training. CaseScan sort of multiplies, is a force multiplier. And we're going to have another slide in a minute, but it offers free training. And as Yaron mentioned, there are the mental health aspects. The blur functionality is prioritized. Yaron mentioned that there's no internet connection needed, which is important to a lot of people. Who needs CaseScan? Not just local, state, and federal law enforcement working child exploitation investigations, but probation and parole. Actually going out and looking at probationers and parolees' phones who have waived their Fourth Amendment rights, and they have certain criteria that they have to meet related to their probation and parole. they can, that it would be very useful to have CaseScan in the field. Same thing with corrections and mobile devices inside of prisons, and then customs and border protection as well. I mentioned CaseScan training is free. Yaron mentioned that, that he meets regularly with new users and people who want to try out CaseScan and runs them through a demo and some short training. But CaseScan thinks that training shouldn't be a barrier to protecting children. So their training is free. There is no charge once you purchase the tool for the training. You can scan the QR code. There is a 30-day free trial for CaseScan. And I think there's a slide. I'll leave this up for just a minute in case you want to scan that. We will also have our email addresses on the slide at the end, and you can certainly email either one of us to claim your 30-day free trial as well. There's emails on the side over here. Ori is the chief business officer for CaseScan, chief operations officer. And you can also email him as well. They are both very, very responsive to any requests and any feedback. So Yaron, after they scan that, what happens after they scan that?
Yeah, they'll basically come to my calendar, and they just need to pick a time that is available, usually 30 minutes. We'll run through a demo, kind of similar to what we did now, a little bit more detailed. And after that, if anybody is interested to actually test it, I'll issue a trial license for them. By the way, it's a 30-day trial, but if you're planning on a vacation next week and then you're training the week after, and you can only start, later, we are very flexible with that. Like I said, this is an honor for us to be able to work with you and support you. And we'll do whatever, we'll work according to your schedule to accommodate the trial. We usually recommend people to try CaseScan against the cases that they're already familiar with, because then it's easily, determined whether, okay, this took me 6 weeks to put together, and now I can do it in just a few hours. That's definitely a game changer. And like I said, we have people who are using it that told us that CaseScan is saving them between 75 to 90% of the time. So once you do the demo with me, I'll issue the license for you. I'll send you an email with instructions how to download it. It's very intuitive. We usually never have problems with that. And then after that, we schedule a feedback call with Ori. It's very, very important for us to listen to you, things you liked, things you didn't like. All our mission in life is to make your life easier and faster and better and more accurate, and give you all the information you need also to basically use in court and charge a case and so forth. So this is our service to you, and we'll do whatever it takes to give you the best tool possible.
So here's our contact information. I have 2 email addresses. Yaron, his NetSpark email address, our phone numbers. I'm on LinkedIn all the time if you would like to message me there. Yaron is also on LinkedIn. You can certainly contact us in any of those ways. Now, I don't have the benefit of seeing the chat. I'm sure that that's operator error on my part, but if there are questions in the chat that we can answer, we certainly have some time left to do that.
So Debbie, I'll read you one comment. There is Debbie and Ori, excellent presentation and tool with great potential for additional advancements. Thank you. This is from Giovanni Masucci.
Oh, Giovanni, hi. How are you?
Thank you so much. We have greetings from Chicago, people from Texas, hello from New Jersey, Louisiana, from Kentucky, Arnold.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's a great crowd. Again, we are delighted to be talking with you, and we can then continue the conversation one-on-one at your earliest convenience.
If there are questions that you have later or that you think of, just contact either Yaron or myself, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Hey guys, this is Megan from Cyber Social Hub. Thanks for this great information. We do have some questions in the Q&A tab, so I'll go ahead and start bringing these up on the screen for you.
Okay.
Yes. The answer is yes. Next. That's a great question. So when you will test the mobile function, you will see that it's still in beta. The iPhone, the iOS capabilities are there. So like I said, it will basically mimic an iTunes backup, and it will find all the data that you have on any iOS device. It can be an iPad also. With regard to Android, we're still now currently only looking at the public folders. And we're trying to find, but that's because the way of Samsung is dealing with backups, or the way they back up their data. But I already heard that we already have a solution also to look at private folders within Android, like WhatsApp or things like that. So that's going to be coming very soon. And then we will also support other phones. So we have, when I send the system when I send an email for somebody to install CaseScan, the beginning of the email will include system requirements, what kind of GPU, it's an NVIDIA GPU, how much memory you need, how much RAM, things of that nature, the WSL version. It's very simple and straightforward. There are some occasions here and there, I would say maybe 1%, 2% of the people who are testing it that don't have enough memory or don't have the NVIDIA GPU or things like this. And there is nothing we can do about it. They'll have to upgrade the hardware to run CaseScan. But in most cases, 95% or even more than the cases, it's a non-issue. However, once you start to install CaseScan, it will not let you continue if something is not met. So it's just going to show you kind of a red thing, and then you'll have to upgrade the hardware. That's pretty much. The only other thing I can mention is that CaseScan is very sensitive to the hardware, basically, just like any other software, and especially AI software. So sometimes even the quality of the cable or how old the drive is that you're trying to extract data from, it will affect the speed of CaseScan. The better the cable is, the better the hardware is, the faster the analysis is going to be. If it's old or it's not good. For example, when I installed CaseScan on my computer and I tried my iPhone, initially the cable that I was using was only good for charging, but it wasn't actually transferring any data. So then CaseScan told me, hey, you need to use another cable. So just be sensitive to that, but otherwise it should work almost on any laptop or any forensic machine. I'm not familiar with that term.
I believe it's going to be visual deduplication.
Yeah. In terms of duplications, yes, it's visual. Are there any agencies in California that are using CaseScan? We are now engaged with a few. Several are testing it. I don't know. I don't remember if we have actual customers in California, but we have customers already all the way from Kentucky to Oklahoma to Texas, in Alabama,
Washington State,
Wisconsin, and Georgia, and many other. Case can use one procedure or multiple procedures to identify high probability candidates. One procedure or multiple procedures to identify high probability candidate images. So, AI is basically a statistical tool. Like I said, and it's trained with real CSAM. So there are many AI algorithms that will determine whether it's CSAM or nudity or underwears or anything like that. For example, we even have one algorithm specifically that was added recently to deal with animation, right? Again, Debbie mentioned it, generative AI. Generative AI, CSAM that is created by generative AI is very interesting because there is no victim, right? But in some states, in Canada, and also some states in the US, you can absolutely charge somebody based on that, because the assumption is that they probably also have regular system, you just didn't find it yet. So there are multiple procedures that look at the categories and identify the CSAM in the other categories, and then determine it and present it to you in the way that I showed. Scene detection.
So are you, well, I don't know that I can, if you are talking about, I mean, you can see the EXIF data, right? In the images you're on.
And in the EXIF data, there is GPS location and all that, yes. Absolutely. Yes, good question. So we try to make the pricing very affordable and simple. So we have, it's an annual license. Licensing is per computer. So you install it on your computer. It's $5,000 if you only buy one license. That's the annual fee. On top of that, there is 20% customer support fee. We usually don't charge for that. There is also a training fee, one time $1,500. We don't charge for that either. So worst case perspective from a licensing perspective or from a price perspective, it's $5,000. If you buy more than one license, and most people buy many more, some are talking with us about potentially 15, 20, even more than that, then there is a volume discount that kicks in. And eventually, really our objective is that every law enforcement officer that is doing CSAM investigations, whether it's in the lab or in the field, will have access to CaseScan. This is our mission, this is our objective, and we'll work with you to meet the budget constraints that you may have and try to get CaseScan in the hands of everybody that needs it.
Thanks, Megan, for leading us through that.
My pleasure.
All right, well, if there are no more questions, again, you certainly are welcome to contact either one of us in the future if you have any questions. You know, I have spoken as a former law enforcement officer, as a former executive making purchasing decisions about software related to child exploitation investigations. This is definitely something that I am excited about. And my you know, recommendation would be to simply try it. It's free.
Yeah. By the way, if you want to meet us in person, we are all going to be in the ICA conference in Dallas in a couple of weeks from now, booth number 20. So Ori will be there, I will be there, another colleague of ours will be there. We'll be there for 3 days. We have a speaking engagement. Actually, a customer of ours is flying from Wisconsin to do the workshop together with us. It's somebody that we actually met recently, but he immediately actually purchased a license and he's using it heavily. Come see us, say hi, register, and get your free trial anytime.
Thanks, everybody.